Okay, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about Ilhan Omar, the representative from Minnesota, Keith Ellison's replacement. I think a lot of people have forgotten that the anti Semitic Islamic uh, hijabi supporter of Sharia law is actually replacing an African American congressman who was a member of the Nation of Islam, and like his successor, was supported by CARE and other North American offshoots of the Muslim Brotherhood. But that's a story for another day. Today, I just want to examine what this portends for the Democratic Party, but more importantly, just uh, how Representative Omar is sort of emblematic, is a exemplar for Islam and this side of Islam people don't really want to think about, but it really is essentialized in her and Rashida Tlaib, the kafia donning Palestinian representative from Michigan. And again, these women, they are United States representatives, but they really are sort of foreign. They really are representatives of foreign powers, and a foreign power. And the foreign power in this case is Islam. The irony of the Ilhan Omar story is that she evoked controversy for accusing Jews of representing AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. Now, leaving aside the politics of this, whether or not you support or oppose Israel or think that there's too much lobbying for foreign powers, the irony of the story is that you have a representative who came here as a refugee from Somalia, who didn't adopt any sort of American values, can just barely communicate in English, yet was elected to an office of incredible power, is now sitting on the House Foreign Relations Committee, is working with Eliot Engel, the chairman of that committee, who refuses to strip her, to evict her from that committee, while Steve King, who said nothing approaching the hatred and bigotry of what Representative Omar has said, he was kicked out of his committee by Republicans for PR purposes. Yet Eliot Engel would not remove Ilhan Omar. She sits on that committee, a committee where she's privy to incredibly sensitive intelligence information. So you have someone who is not representing the U.S., despite being an American congresswoman, who doesn't represent the U.S., who represents foreign powers, and I mean this not just in the sense of representing Islam, whose values are inimical to the United States, but and our Constitution, but representing Somalia. People aren't aware of this, but her intervention in the last Somali presidential selection was pivotal. She went to Somalia to campaign for a certain for the incredibly corrupt, as almost every Islamic leader is, incredibly corrupt current president of Somalia. This is a woman who is not who is an American in only the most narrow legal sense. And this is one reason I think we need to adjust our immigration laws, particularly our refugee resettlement policies, because if we don't, we'll have more and more people like Representative Omar and Rashida Tlaib, and basically people working for foreign powers representing Americans, and using that platform to uh, slander and libel Americans who are the subject of their attacks by virtue of the fact that they're Jewish. And anti-Semitism is intrinsic to Islam, and increasingly it's going to be inextricable from the Democratic Party, because this vote is just one example. They're not going to vote to condemn her. They're not going to strip her of her committee slot. What's more, even a generic anti-Semitism resolution was tabled. They decided not to vote on that. This is a resolution simply condemning Jew hatred. They are not willing to pass a bill condemning Jew hatred in the most generic, benign way possible, because you cannot condemn Jew hatred and endorse Islam. And Islam is now part of the matrix of the Democratic Party. And that's the problem we have. That's why they could not pass this resolution. And as we speak, they're negotiating. They're trying to craft a resolution that also condemns Islamophobia. Now, Islamophobia is a myth. The idea that there's discrimination against Muslims based purely on the fact that they're a Muslim. The truth is that there are legitimate fears of Islam, and this neologism of Islamophobia, fear of Islam, is used as a cudgel to crush legitimate debate about whether or not this is a healthy ideology to have in a modern Western civilization. Now, in a future video, I'm going to break down the specifics and the particulars of why Islam, as it's practiced, is not compatible with Western institutions. Now, there are Muslims that don't they call themselves Muslims in the same way that they're very there are people that call themselves Muslims in the same way that some people who might be Catholic or even some other religions. They might call themselves that as a sort of cultural denotation. They're not, but they don't believe in the true. They don't believe in the true principles of Islam and those espoused by Muhammad. And I don't think they're a threat to America. But people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who believe in Islam at its core and who want to superimpose Islamic values over the United States and have them supersede the American Constitution, they are a problem. And this is just the beginning of the problems that we'll see in the future, especially as the Democratic Party becomes more and more solicitous of Islam, and it becomes much more similar to what we see in the UK with the Labour Party, where it's impossible for the Labour government to form a coalition without Islamic support, domestic Islamic support. And the same in France. Francois Hollande, I can't say that with a good French accent, unfortunately, but he was elected because of Muslim support, and this is going to these are shades of what's happening in the United States and what will continue to happen if we pursue the same policies and continue on the same trajectory that we're on right now.